How you guys doing? It's Brandon Cruz Daily Fantasy Podcast, where I go and look at little plays and strategies specifically designed for GPPs. This show for people who are already informed in daily fantasy sports and how these contests operate. If you have any questions that are related to NASCAR that you're curious about, that you want to know, feel free to shoot them my way at BrandonCruzDFS on Twitter. Just make sure they're not a stupid question or I won't answer them. Most importantly, take everything here with a grain of salt and use your best judgment when making entries. Additionally, if I have gambling addiction, that is not my problem. Check your sense of feelings at the door. Let's talk about the truck race at Bristol, shall we? And I guess I can just start calling this the $8 showdown contest, the $8 NASCAR Truck Series contest, because that's about the only thing worth playing for the Truck Series. I understand everybody's focusing on the NFL. I understand that's where the target audience is, but I do think there is the demand for bigger Truck Series contests. Let me just check right fast. I'm recording this right now. Okay, yeah, that contest is still reservation only, so no salaries here. I was trying to push this back a little bit further to get salaries at least out. I like talking about salaries more than just, wondering what they are and everything, but that's just the situation we are in. So, yeah, this is basically just for the $8 contest. That's the only one worth playing. They've kind of murdered the 33 and all the other ones, so we'll just focus on that. Early thoughts in this race with 38 trucks, actually 36, because two guys withdrew from this race. I'll talk about that in this podcast as well, but 38 trucks were on the entry list for this race. That's more than we've had in the last few years. Will we see an uptick in cautions? Now, I want to take this time to go tell you to check out racewiththeprize.com to get the fancy NASCAR spreadsheet that I use and that you need to be using as well. It has everything you need, and in the age of football, in the season of football, you don't have time to be looking at different racing reference pages. You don't have time to be looking at other weird websites with little dabbles of DFS good notes and goodies and things of that nature. It's too much of a pain. You don't have time. You want to focus on football. You want to focus on the Cup Series. You want to focus on golf or MMA, whatever you're looking at. So get the fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet from Race for the Prize to get everything in one location. The optimizer, the entry fee, the starting qualifying grid, race ratings, race history, lap data, dominator points, previous optimal lineups, everything you want to look at, a mass multi-entry tool. Everything is there for you. Go to racewiththeprize.com to get that. Looking at last year's race, we had 12 cautions in the race. I don't know how many are going to have this year. I had to go back and look at the previous cautions at Bristol in the Truck Series race with more than 32 guys, just because I was curious about how these races went. So I looked at the races from 1995 to 2019. That's 22 races. They skipped this track between 2000, 2001, 2002. And let's look at the cautions that we've had in Bristol's history. We've had 6, 9, 11, 10, 8, 6, 8, 6, 9, 10, 12, 5, 13, 9, 6, 5, 4, 5, 9, 5, 5, and 12 cautions in this race. Okay, so let's look at this. We have 38 trucks in this race, 32 realistically, 35 that actually have a chance to run the full race or actually do well. I really think this race is going to be a lot like the 1997, the 1998 races. Going to be a lot of mistakes, smaller crashes, but a higher number of those than normal. I even tweeted I tweeted the 1997 race for people who are curious about how that race went. I think it's going to be a lot like that. And mainly that was just 2-car wrecks, guys getting in the wall, making mistakes, not being clear. We've seen that before. If you remember last year, we saw the Natalie Decker incident. That is the greatest 2 minutes of spotter, driver, and crew chief communication I have ever heard. That's crazy. But like I said, smaller crashes, a lot of mistakes. I'm thinking 8 to 11 incidents, and with the 2 stage cautions, that could bring us anywhere to, 10 to 12 yellows. I'm aiming more for 10 yellows. But I would not be surprised, especially with no practice, not a whole lot of data on tracks like this year, not a lot of practice time. I imagine there's going to be some people who just miss the setup completely. I would not be surprised to see that. So, I'm aiming around 10, 11 cautions in total. So let's check that out. Let's look at stories to look at if you're into that sort of thing, if you're into chasing the stories, man. Let's talk about the stories. Stories to look at if you are in the playoffs. Todd Gillen, a short track god this year. A lot of things have not gone his well. Got involved in incidents, got wrecked a few times. We all remember the gateway situation where he had the best car and got destroyed. This is a track that Todd Gillen should do good at. He does well at tracks to where downforce isn't that big of an issue or big of a problem. This is more of a driver's track. I expect Gillen to do very well this weekend, or this Thursday, rather. Christian Eckes, he has a pressure to succeed. He's racing for Kyle Busch Motorsports. This truck has been underperforming. It is an understatement in Kyle Busch's eyes. He needs to perform. I think he's close to losing his job, so just keep that in mind. Derek Krauss missed the playoffs by slightly. I think if he had another 2 races, he probably would have made the race, or he probably would have made the playoffs, but he just didn't here. He's going to be starting 15th. He wants to make a statement. He ran very well at Bristol. He ran very well at Dover, which is a race that I'm going to talk more about, but he's a guy I would look at. Then Johnny Sauter. A poor season is another understatement. I haven't seen a top-notch car have this many mechanical issues in a long time. Let's just look at the last 3 races. Gateway, Darlington, Richmond. It's difficult to have 3 races in a row of poor finishes when you're in a good car. It's even more difficult to have 3 races in a row with mechanical failures when you're in a good car. It's even harder, and it's been done before by Ryan Preece, but it's even harder to have 4 bad races in a row. Johnny Sauter, this is going to be his 4th race. Is going to have a bad race, is going to have mechanical failures. I don't see that happening. I think Johnny Sauter is in play. He is determined. He's had a hellacious last 3 races. He's pissed. He's mad he missed the playoffs. Look, he's either going to be driving through this field in anger, or he's going to be getting into people and wrecking people in anger. That's just how it's going to boil down to for Johnny Sauter. Let's look at the cars that I think you need to look at for sponsorships. For if you got question marks, if they're going to run the full race, if they're not. Like I said, I think a vast majority of these cars are going to run the full race, but let's get into detail. Also, I typically like things on Twitter just to make them easier for me to find, related to sponsorships, related to news. So, if you're ever curious, where am I getting my data from? Not all my data is off of Twitter, but a vast majority, I save it on there just with likes. So, if you're ever curious about what I'm looking at during the week, just go through my likes and you'll see a lot of truck-related sponsorship lineup stuff. Kaden Murphy, the monster truck driver, is making a return this week. He's sponsored. He's good to go. I don't see him doing that bad for Nemco Motorsports. He should run the full race. Eckerson is in the 41 car this week. Now, I haven't seen anything related to sponsorships, but I do think that this truck is a top 25 truck if he can just survive it. If this truck can survive without any mechanical failures, any issues, I think it's a top 25 truck. Had a mechanical failure at Darlington. Remember, this is the 41 truck coming out of the DK Cram stable. He was with that team, the 55 crew that they broke off halfway through the season a couple weeks ago. This is their own thing. I think that truck is better than what people are saying it is. Oh, excuse me. But, it just hasn't performed that well recently. I just think that's how, I think that's how that truck performs. Josh Bilicki in the Insurance King what number is he in? In the number, where are you at, Josh Bilicki? He's the number 00 for Josh Rheem. Ran the same truck last week at Richmond, came home at the 25th place finish. He's doing double duty this weekend with Insurance King. I imagine he's going to run the full race. I don't see him not running it. The Rheem brothers pages have been pushing Josh Bilicki a lot this week in the 00, talking about Insurance King, talking about him running his car, talking about him doing the double. Anytime a team is really adamant about pushing that type of stuff, usually means they're going to try and run the full race. Now that truck may have failures, but at least he's sponsored. At least we have a safety net of saying he will. Then moving on to the other car out of the Rheem brothers stable, that's Josh Rheem. Haven't heard anything on him. I have no freaking clue if he's going to run the full race. I don't think he does, or I think he pulls off very early. I think they don't have the speed in this car to stay out. They're going to get lapped very early. His last 2 races, 30th, 33rd. I think it's going to be the same story here with Josh Rheem. CMI, the Cicerelli Motorsports Incorporated, or whatever it's called, they actually withdrew their entries this weekend. That's Ray Cicerelli and Tim Veens, due to the fact that they couldn't get their short track cars repaired in time for this race. They were on the entry fee. They were talking about, man, I can't wait to get to Bristol this weekend. And they're like, oh, you know what? We're not going to race this weekend. We're not ready. I guarantee they're probably like, NASCAR's not wanting us to race. But yeah, they're not racing this weekend. So those are about the only guys I would really worry about sponsorship-wise. Everybody else should be sponsored. I mean, look, I'm going to look through, make sure Spencer Boyd is, make sure you know, Cody Robaugh is sponsored, even though I'm not going to use him at all. You can do that yourself. Everybody else, it's pretty good to go in this sense. We already know who's going to run well. We already know who's going to run sponsored. So I don't really have to talk about the whole field anymore at this point. But those are the guys that I would look at if you were worried about sponsorship. Now let's look at the cars in general of who I think is going to do well at this race. A track that I'm going to look at a lot this weekend is the race rating, lap data, and lap position from Dover. I understand Dover is not a quote-unquote short track, but Dover and Bristol race very similar. It's pretty much a single groove racetrack. I know Bristol might get the high line going, but I don't see that coming into play in the Truck Series race. I think it's going to look a lot like the All-Star race, to where that like that PJ1 just didn't work throughout that whole race. It needs way more rubber and more laps on it than what they're going to get in this Truck Series to make this a real true two-groove racetrack. That's why I said I think it's going to look a lot like the 97, 98 Truck Series races here, to where, the front guys are just able to pull away, and then you're kind of side by side because you're forced into that throughout the field. Going back to Dover, single groove racetrack, very fast, in the corners way more than you are in the straightaways. You're setting your car up for those corners. I think a lot of those teams are going to bring a very similar setup that they had at Dover to Bristol. So I would imagine there's a lot of correlation between those. I would look at the people who had very fast cars and how they finished there. So for example, Brett Moffitt finished second at Dover. Austin Hill finished sixth at Dover. Zane Smith finished first at Dover. Christian Eckes finished fifth at Dover. Todd Gillen finished fourth at Dover. Derek Krauss finished 8th at Dover. These are the types of situations, these are the types of runs that I want to see as evidence that they're going to do well at Bristol. I'm not going to tell you the whole thing. Like I said, go to Risk for the Prize. If you just want everything in a concise manner, easy to read, go check that out. Looking throughout the field, let's look at the back half of the field, people that I think are going to offer a lot of upside. Like I said, Caden Murphy is going to run the full race. I don't see why he wouldn't in that Nemco Motorsports machine. Parker Kligerman offers a lot of place differential here, and they wouldn't show up whenever that car shows up with Parker Kligerman. I know he had an issue at Dover, but usually whenever they show up, they're here to run. He's starting 37th. He should finish 12th, 10th, 8th. He's going to be fast. He's going to get by people. He just needs this to not be a wreck fest, pretty much. He just needs to not be wrecked, and it's going to go well for him. Ross Chastain, perfectly fine with. Eckerson, like I said, I'm okay with if he's cheap enough. Jennifer Joe Cobb and Norm Benning would probably be the two punts. I don't know where they're going to place these guys in salary-wise, but I think you're probably going to need a punt. Natalie Decker, like I said, this is last year. Wow, what a hoot, man. That's wild. Natalie Decker, Jennifer Joe Cobb, Norm Benning are probably going to be the punts that you have to look at. And I wouldn't even really touch Norm Benning. I don't think he runs the full race, but you're going to need a punt somewhere here. Danny Bone, how do you pronounce his name? Whatever. He should be priced accordingly now. I know he's been underpriced these last few weeks, but he should be up high enough now. He ran 19th at Gateway. He should easily pass at least 10 cars at this race. I don't see that being an issue. Clay Greenfield, starting where he should finish, although his price has gone down finally. He's no longer $8,000. If he's around 58, 59, 6,000, I'd like him under 5.7, 5.8. But if he's around there, he can be used as a punt. I don't like Jordan Anderson. He just hasn't shown speed this year. He hasn't ran very well this year, other than Daytona, and that doesn't really tell us a whole lot about his other tracks. He's been underperforming this year compared to his price, compared to what we expect from him. Not interested. Trevor Bain and Nice Motorsports. Look, Nice loves Bristol. They tweet about it. They talk about it. They say it's their best track, especially when talking about Natalie Decker, because they want people to focus on Natalie Decker. They should show up with very fast cars. Johnny Sauter, like I said, should go up fine. Spencer Boyd, I don't see that working out. Starting 22nd. Better plays in the back, better plays in the front. Hocevar, I like. Fogelman and Austin Wayne Self are typically high-owned for ownership and value, just because I think that's where people are when they're forming lineups on the DraftKings site. They always end up around these guys, and they just have to pick them. Raphael Lessard is in between the two. I would much rather go with Lessard. Sam Mayer, Derek Krauss, and Tanner Gray, pretty much all have a similar upside. I just want to go with whoever's cheaper. Tanner Gray would probably be the most, or the least likely to perform well compared to these three, but You know, that's just how it is. Cody Roball, not interested. Timmy Hill has ran very well the last 2 weeks, more out of pure luck and strategy than anything. But hey, man, top 16, top 9 for him at Darlington and Richmond. That's awesome. He hasn't had any ownership. He's been doing that with his own money, but he's starting 13th. Do I think he can hold on at Bristol? Well, he finished 17th here last year. Timmy Hill's interesting. He needs to be priced low enough to... Look, if he could get us 4x, I'd be fine with. 4x in value, that is. I don't mind him being... He's interesting. I don't know what they're going to price him at. And I could only talk to him if I knew what the price was. If he's 6,000, 6'1", he'd probably hit 4.2 value, maybe 4, maybe 3.8. Probably not 3.8. He'll probably be around 4x. He probably won't hit 5x. I don't see him hitting 5x, but if he finishes, let's say 16th, 17th, it might work as a punt play. He can't cost that much. You know what I mean? I think you got it. Stuart Freeze, not interested in. Todd Gillen, like I said, I like. Eckes, I don't like. I just don't like him. I don't think it works out. Chandler Smith, same situation here. I don't think they work, even though they're going to Bristol, a track that Kyle Busch Motorsports has been dominant at in these trucks. I just don't see it working out. Sheldon Creed should do all right. I'm probably going to look over Tyler Ingram. He's probably not going to be on my radar this weekend. Zane Smith, good. Austin Hill, good. Crafton, good. Rhodes, good. Moffitt and Enfinger, they're good. The two people I would be least interested in would be Enfinger and Rhodes. Now, why did I just go through the field and say, I basically like everybody? Well, it's all lineup construction. How do you think this race is going to play out? Do you think it's going to be a wreck fest? Do you think it's going to be not a wreck fest? How do you think? And if it is a wreck fest, where do you think these crashes are going to go or come from? I don't see the crashes, at least early in the race. I don't see the crashes coming from the guys starting in the top, 13, 12. So that would mean that the crash is probably going to be mid-pack, back of the pack. Well, if you're looking at that, who do you think causes those wrecks? I don't see it being Kligerman. I don't see it being Chastain. I don't see it being Eckerson. I don't see it being Murphy. I don't see it being Trevor Bayne. I don't see it being Johnny Sauter. I don't see it being Hocevar. So who would be more likely to cause wrecks at a fast track where there is basically no room for mistakes? I'd look at Austin Wayne Self, Fogelman, Boyd, Anderson, Greenfield, Decker, Rheem, Balicki. Those would be the guys I would look at to wreck. Now, all that can change if they get higher in the field, pretty much after like the first 20 laps, anything can happen. But that's what I would look at if this is a wreck fest. It's going to be guys in the back. I just don't see people who are fast wrecking. And if they are, it's going to be because they're racing hard at the end or racing hard at the end of the stage, doing something stupid. But there shouldn't be wrecks in the top 10, early in the race, that is. So I think the strategy for both a wreck-filled race and not a wreck-filled race is pretty similar. I want to get as many dominators as I can in the lineup. That means I want to try and aim for 3 dominators. I would probably get those top 3 dominators from people who are starting probably top 17. And let me explain why I think that. Sam Mayer has a very fast GMS car. Derek Krauss has a very fast car as well. I think they have top 8 potential. Todd Gillen, like I said, should be very quick. Was very quick at the short tracks. Was very quick at Dover, starting 11th. He should be able to get through the field and be quick. He just needs to pass on pit road and get up there. Eckes and Smith, even though I'm not high on them, they're Kyle Busch Motorsports cars. Those guys are going to want to get out in front. Moving up, Sheldon Creed, a guy who has been very quick this year. He's on a roll. He's running better right now than he did earlier in the year. Zane Smith, just another cat who is fast. Austin Hill, fast. Brett Moffitt, probably in the best situation, probably in the best car this year. Most consistent, for sure. He should easily get around Grant Enfinger. I would imagine Enfinger leads for maybe 20 laps at max, just because they're so quick, and he'll round him off left and right in a fast manner. But I see Brett Moffitt getting around him either on the track or on pit road. I don't think Enfinger, I don't think Rhodes, and I don't think Crafton have the car to beat Moffitt with. So I would imagine Moffitt gets the lead early, stays up there until somebody like Zane Smith, Todd Gillen, even Sam Mayer, until those guys would get up and race with him. So I'm going to try and fit as many guys starting inside the top 17 in my lineup as possible. Probably 3 dominators, 2 value plays, possibly a punt. Or you can go 2 dominators, 3 place differential, and 1 punt. That's how you could look at it. The place differential, I mean, it's huge. I mean, Kligerman should get up there. Chastain should easily get up there. I think Kaden Murphy, like I said, I think he's probably a top, let's say a top 20 car. You know, that's going to be a lot of, I'm probably higher on Kaden Murphy than other people. But look, I just think it works well for him. Josh Bilicki, if he stays out of trouble, he should just pass people based on pure determination. Natalie Decker could be a punt that is viable. I'm sure people don't want to play her after last year, after how she's been running here, but Bristol, Nice Motorsports, they tend to like this. I'm sure she wants to put last year, you know, behind her. She was a laughingstock because of what happened last year. I'm sure she wants to get over that. So, you know, a lot of these people can be value plays, can be used. It just depends on your lineup construction and how you're approaching it. And I think that's going to do it here for the Truck Series at Bristol. Remember, I got a Patreon in the description. If I helped you out at all or whatever, feel free to donate. That's what that is there for. I use it as a donation. So if you want to, you know, say thank you or something, go there, donate to me. I do appreciate it. And let's talk about the Xfinity Series next on the next episode of whatever this is, the $8 contest podcast. Best of luck on Thursday, guys.